Anas, today we are going to inshallah start Hadith 216. Those of you who don't know Anas, you guys know we through Sunnah Fix try to feature different youth. Although Anas wasn't the plan today, but you know someone had to step up. And Alhamdulillah, thank you for coming in. Anas is part of our core leadership team, part of our marketing team, and someone, alhamdulillah, who has been instrumental from day one in making core initiatives possible. So I owe a lot to him. Thank you for always being there. And low-key, I'm kind of happy I get to bug you more since you're not going to be dipping to Albania, inshallah.
I'll be here for you, Brother Ameer, no problem.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So you guys, today, inshallah, we begin Hadith 216 that has been brought to us by Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. And this hadith that comes to us from Abdullah ibn Umar, the first part of it goes like this. So I'm going to give the English translation, and then we're going to go deep into this. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, whoever seeks protection of you, invoking Allah's name, then give them that protection. So someone comes to you seeking protection and they invoke Allah's name, like, please do it for Allah, give it to them. And whoever asks you of anything in Allah's name, then give it to them.
Can you give us an example, Brother Ameer?
Yeah, we're going to get into this now. So what's going on here? Someone is basically coming to you asking a favor in Allah's name, or they need protection from something. Maybe they need some sort of an asylum. And they're invoking Allah's great name. Sabbih isma rabbikal a'la. Tabarak ismu rabbik. Allah's incredible, sacred name. When you hear that, you're like, all is fair for Allah, you know? When it comes to God, all is fair game. And when it comes to Allah's name, everything becomes minuscule. So when a believer hears that, you're like, you ask in the name of Allah, my beloved, you end up actually following through with the favor. So imagine someone come to you in God's name. They're like, Anas, I need your help moving, bro. And, you know, it's not easy. You know, anybody can show up, be your friend when you want to go to the movies. Yeah, see how good of a friend you are when they need your help in moving. So that's when it stands out. But when they invoke Allah's name, and this is something we as Muslims don't do trivially. You don't just invoke God's name for everything. I know, unfortunately, the culture nowadays is like, yalla, yalla, yalla. We drop yallas more than we breathe. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But the default is Allah's name carries sacredness, weightiness. You know, it invokes what I like to call. Actually, I have a question for you and for others. And that is, notice this hadith is assuming something right off the bat. And the hadith is like, when someone asks something in Allah's name, give it to them. It's assuming something, and that is that as a believer, when Allah's name is mentioned, a sense of awe activates. You know what I mean by awe, Anas?
Yeah, like...
What comes to mind when you think of the word awe?
So, for example, awe would be like you're climbing this mountain, all you see is like garbage, blah, blah, blah. When you reach the top of the mountain, you see this like super nice waterfall, and you're just like in awe.
How does it feel inside when because like joy, gratitude, awe is an emotion that we experience. What does that look like? And those of you in the audience who are following along, if you can share an experience where you felt in awe of something. Like, not to make this conversation petty, but you tend to see this when the fans get to meet their celebrity icon. Like a girl gets to meet T Swift, and she's like literally melting in awe, practically about to fall. Stuff for the lens. You know, it happens. Or like you'll see, we've seen believers, right? How they react, how they freak out when they see him. Or like Giannis will throw his sweaty T-shirt, his jersey, sorry, in the crowd, and people are like, as if, you know, a pound of gold just got dropped. This is something we see, this emotion of awe, you know? So scientific research on this emotion of awe is like awesome, man. So they say that, for instance, awe is what you experience when you see a majestic waterfall, or when you see Taj Mahal for the first time, or you see the Grand Canyon for the first time, or God forbid, a tornado right in front of you as you're driving by. That evokes a sense of awe. Astronauts, when they go in space and when they see Earth for the first time from outer space, it overwhelms you. That sense of being overwhelmed, what they call perceived vastness, where you feel small in light of something incredible that you're witnessing, yo, that's awe. And when someone experiences that on us, Scientists are starting to discover that makes that emotion of awe, it makes you feel connected with others, positive. It makes you humble. It makes you more, positive towards others, religious, purposeful. All these incredible things activate. And the biggest thing that I feel like comes out of awe, as the research describes, you have a diminished sense of self, where you feel small compared to the grandeur of what you're witnessing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. My
Have you ever
question
felt
is,
like that?
yeah, like, but my question is, so you said you feel more connected to others.
Yeah.
You have to,
Like
let's say,
nature,
like,
particularly.
but would you have to be like with a friend at the Taj Mahal to both connect?
The way they describe it, you feel connected with with nature and creation in general,
Oh,
because
so
you
you're
have this
connected to the thing.
spirituality that activates. It's
You're connected to
amazing, man.
the visual thing
Yeah,
that you're
man.
seeing.
Subhanallah. I was just watching a video of Kashmir. Kashmir is a part of Pakistan, and there's certain valleys, the greenery, the majestic mountains. Oh, it just floors you, man. And it's something inside of you just screams out of this vastness, perceived vastness. If there are any comments on us that are coming in that you want to highlight, feel free.
Someone said, looking at a night sky with many stars. That one is a big one.
That's a
You
big
mentioned
one,
something
Mustafa.
about,
Thank you.
yeah, you mentioned something about stars one night. It was like,
Pluto.
seeing the star. Yeah,
Pluto
like
said that.
Pluto.
Plato. What am I saying? Pluto. Oh my God, I'm studying astronomy so much. I just turned a philosopher into a star. Plato said that without stars, we wouldn't know God. Like the majesty of God penetrates our hearts because of this overwhelming. And when we were talking to Chris, you remember? He talked
Yeah.
about just living in South Dakota. The sky is so clear. Now, you guys, how do we get this awe of Allah? That's the $1,000,000 question. How do we get that? And the response is simple. There are two ways of increasing the divine awe, and that is either is al-ayat al-Qur'aniyya or al-ayat al-kawniyya. These are the two paths. Either you're going to go, if you want to increase the divine awe, either you're going to go to the revealed book of God or the cosmic book. You know what I mean, Anas? Revealed book is, of course, the Quran. The cosmic book is the universe, the world around you, the nature. These are the two books laid open for you, and hopefully you're going to become engrossed in preferably both. And this is how you take your awe of Allah to the next level. Like you guys, right now, I've been preparing for the next course that's coming up for Core Academy, Dismantling Doubts. And I've been going through so much literature, philosophy and scientific literature, particularly on cutting edge arguments for the existence of God. And just like a little bit of a teaser for y'all, one such argument is called fine tuning. Very famous argument. And it's probably my favorite argument. Fine tuning argument on us goes like this, that scientists have discovered over the last 100 years, the universe is fine tuned for life. What that simply means that nature and universe obey certain laws. And we know laws don't just make themselves. Yeah. Someone had to bring about that system. In fact, what scientists are starting to recognize now, that not only universe and nature obey certain laws, but these laws are actually intelligible, figure-outable, if you will, through the language of mathematics. And you can literally take these laws of nature and you are able to describe them through language of mathematics, which gives you a glimpse of the incredible intelligence and infinite power that must have brought this about. Now, here's where it goes on a whole new level. And like I've been on an Iman high on this, like the Iman rush that I've been experiencing while studying this stuff. What scientists are when you take a law of nature like EMC squared or like Newton's law of gravity and you reduce it into a mathematical equation, there's something called a constant that go into these equations, like a gravity constant, cosmological constant. And what they realized that these constants had to be very specific, very precise. Think of it like a cosmic dial. It had to be dialed to a proper quantity and property. Had that not been the case, life would not have been possible. Forget life, matter would not have formed. Let me give you all one example. Look, I'm about to get a chemistry nerd on y'all, but I promise you don't need much knowledge of chemistry. You know, I've realized over time that as a teacher, you don't expect too much from your students. Actually, that came out the wrong way. But you want to have as minimal expectations as assumptions as possible. So, but at least, unless you remember back in the days of chemistry, you learned about inside an atom you have a protons, neutrons, and electrons. You remember that?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
remember how every atom has a nucleus?
Yes.
You remember that part? Okay, so that's all I need you to know. So
The
you know
brains of
inside,
the atom.
yeah, so inside an atom there's a nucleus, and what we were told is that that nucleus is made up of protons. And if you know anything about protons, protons are positively charged, plus charged. That's why there's a P at the front, positive charge protons. So a nucleus is basically bound by protons and neutrons. Neutrons are neutral, protons are positively charged. Now, here's the crazy part. Have you ever played with magnets? When you put the two positive charges of the magnet together, what happens on us?
The two positive charges go bang and connect to each other.
But no, actually the opposite.
The opposite.
They repel,
side.
right?
Yeah, they repel.
They repel, correct? When you put the two positive ends next to each other, they repel. So the same electromagnetic force that repels the magnets, same thing should happen inside an atom. That's what I'm trying to get to now. If the nucleus of an atom is all protons, they're all positive, shouldn't they be repelling and running away from each other? They should. And technically what's supposed to happen, the atom is supposed to burst, because at the center of the atom, all you got are positively charged protons. They should be disintegrating. They should be like bursting. But that doesn't happen. Why? Because inside every, here we go, inside every atom is something called a strong nuclear force. And literally strong nuclear force produces something called gluons from glue that bends, weds, binds these protons together and keeps the atom together. Wow. If you understood this, now what they're starting to figure out, if that nuclear force was 1% stronger, we would have a lot of carbon in the universe, but no oxygen. And that means water would not have been possible. And if that force was 1% less, we would have a lot of oxygen, but no carbon, and we're a carbon-based life. Once again, life would not be possible. And here's the third one. This is crazy. If that force is higher by 2%, then they say protons themselves would collapse because of the quarks inside. It would be essentially disabled, and atom would not have been able to form, and no matter would have formed altogether.
We wouldn't exist.
In other words, do you understand what we're getting at, Anas? This nuclear force had to be so precise, so on point, that it couldn't be a little bit this way or that way. How did all of this just randomly occur?
All the stars,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. How did it all occur? Where laws figured themselves out, and the quantities and properties and values needed for those specific laws, they all figured themselves out and all fell in place. Like, I feel like you study all this, and by the way, there are dozens of such constants that all had to be dialed in, very fine-tuned. Otherwise, matter would not have formed, stars and galaxies would not have formed, and Big Bang expansion would have basically collapsed upon itself. You study all of this, and how it had to be razor-thin margin of accuracy, and after that, for you to still say that there's no higher power behind it, at that point, you're either arrogant or insane. You gotta pick. I just don't understand how you're not gonna how you're gonna still keep your head buried in the sand. Like, connect the dots, man. Make a little inference to the best explanation. I was part of the research that I've been collecting. I'm like spoiling things, man, but I'm gonna be sharing a lot of these facts in the course. Einstein said something so powerful. He said, listen to this, whoever has undergone intense experience of successful advances in science, like they discovered a law or they came up with an equation, he says whoever has made that kind of an advance is moved by a profound reverence for the rationality, the intelligence that reveals itself in the cosmos. And then he says, everyone who seriously engaged in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that the laws of nature reveal the existence of a spirit vastly superior to that of men, and the one in the face of which we have such modest power ends up making us feel humble. And here I want to share something I read a while ago about Sir Isaac Newton. So Sir Isaac Newton had a friend, had a colleague, And this colleague had this habit of saying Allah's name or God's name with such profound reverence and majesty that
Yeah.
Voltaire, the famous philosopher and a cartoonist and a commentator, Voltaire lived in France, and he wasn't exactly a big fan of religion. So Voltaire had a chance to meet this colleague of Sir Isaac Newton, not Newton himself, a friend of Newton. And Voltaire, who's not very religious, he's meeting the friend of Sir Isaac Newton, and they're hanging out, and he notices that the friend of Isaac Newton mentions God's name in such awe that Voltaire said it left an impression on me, and I wasn't very religious. So I asked him, Voltaire says, I asked him, what do you, that awe you have, like I can feel it. Like you take God's name with such respect, with such reverence. Where does that come from? The colleague says, I got this from Sir Isaac Newton himself. When Newton, as the laws of gravity are unfolding, as he's figuring out calculus, and nature is opening up to him, he's starting to get a glimpse of the mighty intelligence, incredible infinite wisdom that is behind the cosmos. Newton is overwhelmed in awe. So when he would take Allah's name, he would do it with such respect that it would leave an impression on people. And something very interesting for us Muslims, there's a lot of evidence right now, strong evidence, that Newton was a Unitarian, not a Trinitarian. He actually rejected the concept of Trinity and believed in unity, which is Tawheed. There are a lot of evidence that's coming up, subhanAllah. Anyway, I know this is not a chemistry class, a hadith class, but I wanted to share that because y'all, this is how you get awe. Any comments on this?
Not really, but I saw one sister, Nadia, I think posted earlier, where we were talking about nature, and she mentioned how like how our Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to Cave Hira and got in touch with nature.
Yes.
And got in touch with, like, you know, he could see like the city and, you know, all that awe, like kind of like brought it closer.
It's amazing. And NASA released, Sister Nadia says, space sounds in 2017 is like, this sounds like someone's chanting something. I think Sheikh Omar Suleiman said it's possible that it could be the angels chanting Allah's name. Yes. Those of you who are not familiar, just type on Google, what does outer space sounds like? And it's literally like chanting going on. It's like it's hard for me to imitate or replicate it, but yeah, you got to check that out. It's powerful.
Oh wow, man.
So you guys kind of wrapping up the entire discussion, the hadith, the first part of the hadith, and we're only covering the first part today. The Prophet said, when someone asks something of you in Allah's name, give it to them. And that requires an awe to be in place. And when you study Allah's nature or Allah's revelation, you are able to achieve that awe. And honest, once the awe is in place, now obedience is easy. Now submitting is easy. Like imagine somebody who's in awe of Steph Curry, and Steph Curry comes in your town and he's holding a workshop for shooting 3 points. And Steph Curry's like, your elbow needs to be 90 degrees and it has to be in this way, that way. Who's going to question? You're going to be like, yo, that's Steph, man. Like, I am overwhelmed by his ability to shoot. You're going to like follow Samir now. He says jump, you say how high. That's what happens when you're in awe. That's literally what happens. And when you realize the incredible wisdom and intelligence that is behind the cosmos, that is so vastly superior to you, when the command comes from him, you're like, I better shut up and just listen, man. I better just obey. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're told in a hadith, Aisha radiallahu anha used to say that whenever Prophet would come home, what would he do in the house? He would be in the service of his family. You know, like he's stitching shoes and like doing laundry, everything the millennials don't do or Gen Z doesn't do. Family man, like he's mopping and brooming. Yo, that's our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's in the service of his family. And then what happens? Aisha radiallahu anha says that the same Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who's laughing, working with his family, serving his family, as soon as the adhan would be heard, as if he didn't even know us. Like his mind will shift towards salah so squarely, as if he didn't know us. Allah's name is mentioned, and a sense of awe is activated. Man, I hope we can bring that awe, that divine awe in our hearts. That's when your relationship with Allah feels so good. This is where you taste the sweetness of Iman. This is where religion is no longer just a chore, but you are deeply spiritually fulfilled. Ask Allah for this if you have never felt this. Our divine awe. The love, deep love for Allah, deep love for the Messenger of Allah, These are things that make Islam so fulfilling, you guys.
Brother Amir, I remember like almost a year ago, you taught me a dua. It was Allahumma a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa ta'atika wa husni ibadatik.
Translate?
Could this dua bring be like asking Allah for awe?
Absolutely, Anas. That's a wonderful dua. I'm glad you mentioned this. Allahumma a'inni, oh Allah, help me. Ala dhikri, in remembering you. And you remember God with all, or you should at least. Wa shukrik, in thanking you. Wa ta'atik, in obeying you. Wa husni ibadatik, and beautifully worshiping you. It's so amazing. This dua is so on point, man. And you know,
Fire dua.
it really is a fire dua, man. And to come full circle, when you are in awe of Allah and you're in love with God, and when someone invokes His name, are you really gonna hold back? Like when someone understands Allah, knows Allah, you realize everything is from Him. Every atom in your body is from Him. He's the one who facilitates your breathing. He's the one who has set up the system where you don't even have to think, and your heart is pumping blood. Everything is from Him and for Him. So when someone invokes His grand name, you're like, yo, take it, man. It's all yours.
Let's go. I'll help you move.
I'm gonna keep you posted, brother. Barakallahu feek, you guys. This is what I wanted to share today, and inshallah, we'll wrap up this hadith. Hope I didn't get too philosophical and a science nerd on y'all. Barakallahu feekum. Any comments and questions?
What I really love, Brother Amir, is that like as a kid, you know, we're always attached to our phones. We never really get to see the outside world. And I recently have had the opportunity to see like the nature side of Milwaukee, because we're all used to like the city and like 27th Street and all that. And man, when you really get into nature, like I really understand now when you say like you see Allah's creation first-handedly, you know, it's crazy.
It just activates. It's like your inner life begins to flourish when you become in tune with nature like that. Sister, would you like to read what Sister Nadai said?
When we have a true conviction within our heart that Allah is the creator and He alone, that's worth to be worshipped, and there is nothing besides Him, and follow only in His law.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like when you fall in love with somebody, like when you really love somebody, I noticed you usually listen to everything they say. You don't question it. Like you said, Steph Curry teaches you how to shoot a free throw. You're not going to be like, why do you do that?
Yeah. The attitude is completely different. Is that of understanding and not undermining. Subhanallah.
Yeah.
You know, I'll end on this. The Prophet ﷺ said something beautiful. He said, anyone who wants to taste the sweetness of Iman, he said, first person on the list who actually experiences Iman, not inherits Iman, not just wholesome borrowing from their parents' Iman. No. Actually feeling the sweetness, that love, you know, that fulfillment of Iman. He says, أَن يَكُونَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِ مِمَّا سِوَاهُ. That when Allah and His Messenger become more beloved to that person than anything else, that's where sweetness of Iman kicks in. And you guys, it comes often by studying nature. So, and studying Revelation. Nature, Revelation, these are the two books that Allah has provided us with. Let us, inshallah, take the time to study them. Barakallahu feekum, you guys. Thank you once again for tuning in. Anas, thank you for saving the day. And
absolutely.
Inshallah, I will, inshallah, see you very soon. Assalamu alaikum, y'all.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.